Alright folks, welcome to another Premodern video, and this one is it. So the way the Magic Online Society works is there's this yearly structure happening where the leagues feed into playoffs, the playoffs feed into the seasonal championships, and then we have like basically a big yearly tournament to round things out. So the champions from the quarterly tournaments play against one another, and I won that tournament. You can find that in one of the the videos. I'm actually going to link in the description of this very video if you want to check out the first part where I played against Blue White Landstill. And then all of the players that have won playoffs, they play in a separate tournament that feeds into this one that we're going to be playing today. This one is the finals of finals. So whoever wins this match that I'm going to be playing right now is going to be the champion of champions, as they're calling it, which I think is pretty funny. But this is the most important match of the entire season, basically. So what we're going to be playing is this deck list that I played in the tournament that I just mentioned. And the interesting thing about this is that because it is the very last tournament and we kind of played, against one another, this is an open deck list tournament. So whoever played, so I'm going to be playing the same deck that I played in that event, and also the player who won, which is Fluffy, he is going to be playing the same list that he played in that tournament in order to qualify for this last match. So we are going to be playing this version of Dreadnought. If you want to see a more in-depth deck tech with the decisions and stuff like that about my my random Phyrexian Furnace and and impulses in the main deck, you can check that one out because I went in depth about that in that original video. You can again find it in the description of this one. But what is going to be very interesting is that this is the deck that we're going to be playing against. So this is the deck list that Fluff is going to be playing, and this is, in my opinion, like the best version of Replenish out there. I think this list is very strong and extremely powerful, and also the fact that it has interaction like Swords to Plowshares, and it has ways of digging with Frantic Surge and Attunement, and then obviously it has kind of a backbreaking combo in Replenish plus Opalescence, Wave, and Parallax Tide. This makes this a very problematic matchup, basically because it's just a very strong deck, but also because the fact that it has Swords to Plowshares really throws a wrench in my game plan. My game plan is to land an early meddling mage, name it Replenish, and then the only card that matters from there on is Parallax Wave. Well, that doesn't really apply to this deck list because my opponent has so many different angles of interaction, right? Like they can clear my mage and then go about doing their business. They have also Seal of Cleansing, so my Dreadnoughts are not going to be as strong. So I'm going to really rely on Meddling Mage to do a bunch of the heavy lifting in this matchup. And then even post-Cyber, things get much worse for me, as my opponent is going to be able to bring 4 copies of Orim's Chant, which he can use either defensively in order to, just lead his turn with Orim's Chant, then combo out, or he can do so reactively. So if I play Dreadnought, my opponent Orim's Chants, and then I'm screwed, right? So it's very interesting how this matchup really is going to change, and I feel like it's going to be heavily in my opponent's favor between Orim's Chant and Mana Short. Arcane Denial, I'm not too concerned about. Like this, I mean, if it gets me, it's going to get me, obviously, but I don't think this card is that good, period. So I'm not super scared of that, but both the Mana Short and the Orim's Chant and cards that I'm kind of terrified of. So we'll see how it actually works out. But yeah, this deck is very strong, and this is what I'm going to be playing against. Because of my opponent's deck lists, I think that Cyborging is going to be very interesting, and this is going to be just another matchup where Armageddon is kind of my main game plan in post-Cyborg configurations. So I think solely because of Armageddon, my opponent is going to need to bring in the Arcane Denials, even though it's not actually that good for him in that situation. But this card is just so backbreaking for him that I think that I'm gonna be really trying hard to find an Armageddon in post-Cyber games, and I think that if I do manage to resolve one, it's gonna be fairly academic to win from there. But if I don't, then things are gonna get a lot harder. But yeah, this is the matchup that we're gonna be seeing right now: Blue-White versus Blue-White, and yeah, we're gonna see who can get crowned the champion of champions. So see you there. All right, folks, finally time for the moment of truth. This hand looks very, very good, so we'll keep this. So this is the threat that I want. So the fact that I have both Meddling Mage, I have an island, and I have a white source, and then this white source also taps to cast both the counter spells that are already in my hand. Like, this is just a fantastic hand for game one. Also, I just happen to be on the play, which is exactly where I want to be. So my strategy with Meddling Mage is going to be just effectively just name Swords to Plowshares with the first Meddling Mage. The reason to do that is so I can just name Swords to Plowshares, and then from there on, I just need to focus my counter magic on 4-drops, as opposed to needing to use counter magic on 1-drops, right? So this is actually an interesting draw, but I do think that I am going to just play Meddling Mage right now, because I think it's very important for me to start to get a clock going. So name Swords to Plowshares, pass the turn back. My best draw would be, I guess, a second Meddling Mage. If I find another Meddling Mage, I'm going to actually go ahead and name, I think I'm going to name Replenish. What to name will depend on, you know, how the rest of my hand shapes up, of course, and if I can find effectively a way to answer Parallax Wave. Although I guess at that point I can just name Wave and then just use all of my counter magic on just, at that point the only cards that matter are just Tithe and Replenish. So let's go on Intuition here. It is. Okay, I don't have Daze, unfortunately, otherwise I think I would be Daze in this. This does mean, however, that I'm probably going to need to be forced to bottom the portent. So I think here I'm just going to give him the Opalescence, because if he casts it, I guess if I give him Opalescence, if he casts Opalescence, then I need to worry about Seal, because it's just like a random 2/2. But I still think I'm going to go for that. So I'm going to, choose one. You actually have to, make sure with the templating. I'm going to give him Opalescence here. Okay, cool. That's actually a fine draw because it allows me to portent. Daze, Gush, Opt. Yes, I think I keep this. So I'm going to go, say okay. I'm going to go Opt, then Gush, then Daze, and say no. So now we're going to swing for 2. Also, the fact that my opponent drew an Ancient Tomb is kind of shortening my clock, which is good for me. I think if he slams the Opalescence, I am actually gonna Daze it just so I can cash this in. I already have 2 counter spells anyway, so Flooded Strand, he fetches. Looks like he's gonna go for the Opalescence. There, again, as I said, there's an argument for just letting this resolve, but because of what I said, actually, do I want to Daze here? Just hard casting, or do I want to Daze by bouncing a land? Because I have a Gush, meaning that I can just, I think I just want to just hard cast this Daze here. So what this means is that now I get to next turn just float 2 mana and just Gush main phase and then replay one of my lands. I also get to double Opt, which is fine. Bottom that Vision Charm. Play another Opt. I'm actually going to keep this Impulse because if he plays nothing, then I can just cast it. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe I should just be looking for something else, but I think that it's fine to keep that Impulse there. Particularly with me already hitting my land drops. So at this point, the only card that really matters is Replenish. So I have to make sure that I just don't get got with my pants down into Replenish. Parallax Wave. I could just let this go. If I let this go, he takes a fading counter, and that's going to slow down my clock for how many turns? So my opponent is at 9. I counter this, I swing, they go down to 7. At that point, if they want to cast Replenish, they're going to go down to 5, and I can just counter it. This is close. Yeah, I guess I just counterspell this. I just want to keep my clock going. It's funny because my hand was incredible, but so is his. Okay, maybe my hand is just better now. That may actually be enough for me to go the distance here. He taps some mana and Frantic Searches. That's fine. If this were game 2 or 3, maybe I would counter this. The reason being, he can potentially do something like find both Orange Chant and Replenish, and at that point I will kind of get got, but because this is game 1, this is just fine. Also, that's very interesting, right? Like, my opponent discarded is Flooded Strand there, even when they're like kind of short on mana, like they would actually like that, and that's because Flooded Strand actually takes a full turn out of the clock. Replenish, yeah, that one's getting countered. Okay. I literally saw all 4 Vision Charms this game, which is kind of hilarious. So I can Impulse here, looking for specifically Gush. That would be my best draw. I think that's good. I'm going to cast it off of both islands. Okay, that's another counter spell, so that's good enough, I think. So now I'm gonna play my island, pass the turn back. I'm holding counter spell this turn, then I'm holding foil next turn. Just hardcast foil. His hand was spectacular. His hand was absolutely spectacular, by the way. We're gonna counter this. We still have the foil for next turn. It goes down to 3. Daze is actually not a bad draw, because Daze is effectively 2 damage, right? So it's pretty funny how it's like turn 7, but because of the Ancient Tomb, these Daze is still alive. And yeah, and this is exactly how I envisioned this game going, right? Like, just play a Meddling Mage, don't even worry about Dreadnought. Just play an early Meddling Mage, and then just have that Meddling Mage kind of do everything. Okay, it's filtering some mana. Replenish. I am going to hardcast a foil on that one. And even if his last card is another Replenish, we can just Daze it. Yeah, I'm just drawing like a freaking champion here. I'm just drawing like an absolute champion. His hand was incredible. And then mine was incredible there. Alright, so I've thought about this a really, really long time. And I think that what I want to be doing is this, bringing in Flash of Insight, Armageddon, and Annul. I don't think this enchant really does anything that's worth it. And I think that Brain Freeze would be if I had 2 copies of this card, I would bring in 2. I would bring them in. But the fact that I don't, and I only have like the one Brain Freeze in the sideboard, means that I don't think I'm gonna be able to pull this off often enough. For that reason, the question is whether to Vision Charm or to cut Stifle, because I do know I want to cut a Dreadnought, and I do know that I want to cut like one of the enablers, so I have more cards that do stuff here. So because I think Dreadnought is going to be way too easy for him to answer. He has 4 Orim's Chant, he has 4 Swords to Plowshares, and he also has 4 Seals, plus the 4 Parallax Waves. I think the Dreadnought is going to be more of an extreme late game card more than anything else. So because of that, I'm cutting a singleton card. Again, like my plan is to just like play an early mage and just go the distance with it. The thing now is that we do have access to Armageddon, so I'm bringing in Flash of Insight as an extra card that can help me get the Armageddon game plan going. And all answers a card on their stack, as opposed to Disenchant, which answers the card while it's already in play. That means that, you know, if I attempt to Disenchant one of his you know, like his wave effects, he can still get the seal combo going anyway, right? Same thing is true for Stifle as well. So because of that, I don't think Disenchant does enough, and I just rather have all of my other cards instead. But yeah, this is gonna be my game plan. If I were bringing in the Brain Freeze, I think I would be cutting Stifle over the Vision Charm. But because I'm not doing that, I think that it's better for me to have Stifle, which card like it can randomly, like, you know, just counter a fetch land or something like that. Or so I think that it's going to be better to keep the Stifles instead of the Vision Charms. But obviously the mill 4 does actually make sense if I am trying to if I'm on a Brain Freeze plan. Okay, so what I want to see the most obviously is Meddling Mage. This hand is probably good enough to keep though. So I'm going to keep this one. Probably not going to be playing this Dreadnought for a while, but the fact that I have Impulse, Counterspell, Gush, like all of these cards, like these 3 cards are fantastic, and the fact that I have a bunch of islands makes me a little bit happier to play towards the game plan. Flood Strand is a fine draw. My best draw, once again, would be Melee Mage. The question now is whether do I want to play Flooded Strand this coming turn, or whether I'd rather play plays a seal, that's fine. Or whether I want to play an island so I can gush. Okay, that's a bad draw. I think I'm just gonna play an island so I can hold up counterspell if I need it. He can't tithe here, which is good for me. Okay, so he passes the turn. Here's an impulse, looking for the Armageddon. No Armageddon, but I think, this is interesting. Do I want to get a Daze or do I want to keep digging? I think I actually want to keep digging here. So I'm gonna get another impulse, just dig a little bit further down. This makes my Flooded Strand a little bit worse, but I think that's fine. Yeah, I'm just gonna play an island, say go. I don't think I can tap out for Meddling Mage here. I think it's more valuable for me to hold up Counterspell. Here's Intuition. Yeah, Intuition's fine. I mean, this is very good for him, right? Like, it just enables his combo. This is obviously fantastic, but I don't think that I can just use a Counterspell here willy-nilly. Particularly because, like, my opponent taps, and then they just, you know, get me with a Parallax Wave here. There is a big danger here, however, which is that he can go, if he has a Soul Land, he can just go Orim's Chant into Replenish after this Intuition resolves. And I probably lose to that, but, you know, kind of is what it is. So I think I want to give him the Wave in this case and put the Opalescence on the Tide in the graveyard. And the reason to give him the Wave is, like, I don't have any creatures in play, and the other two cards are more relevant. Like, Opalescence means that this is now a clock I need to care about, which I don't have to otherwise. And obviously, like, Tide just eats all my lands, which is not great. So I'm gonna have him have a Wave. And then I can just, you know, just cast Meddling Mage and just name Parallax Wave. Sure, he can also have Source of Pleasures at that point, but, you know, kind of is what it is. If I do find a Geddon, I do think that I just fire it off next turn. Yeah, 6 cards in hand, one of which I know it's a Wave. Place land number 4 and just place out the Wave. The reason that he's doing this is because, like, this just plays around Meddling Mage preemptively. I think this is fine. I guess I'm gonna Impulse first, see what I find. Flash of Insight. Oh, I can just Daze this now. The problem is if I Daze, I can't Counterspell. I can't Mage into Counterspell. This is actually very interesting. I kind of want this Flash of Insight, not gonna lie. It's gotta be the Counterspell. It just has to be the Counterspell here. So this effectively buys him 5 turns, I guess 4 turns, because I'm just not gonna play into it. Play my land, say go, and I'm just gonna wait until this Wave just wears off. And I do have 2 Counterspells to protect me. He's playing into the Geddon, Opalescence. I think that what I do need to Counterspell. Otherwise, he just has infinite. I just can't do anything. He just has infinite protection. I could Gush, but if I Gush, I go to discard. I think I just passed the turn. This Wave did buy him a pretty significant amount of time. Untap. Furnace is amazing here. Furnace is kind of like the best possible draw. So this is something that he actually needs to care about, that I can deploy to not go to discard, and that forces the action on the Seal of Cleansing here. And if he doesn't have the Seal of Cleansing, that means that I can just play out my Meddling Mage. So the only reason why I can't play the Meddling Mage is because he has both Seal and Wave. So what he can do is he can just, like, you know, exile and then, like, here cleansing the Wave in response in order to deal with the thing. Actually, was this too rushed here? Because I could just stifle this. Yeah, actually, I think I'm just gonna stifle this. Yeah, that was too rushed. I shouldn't have fetched. I should have just, you know, stifled. And now I don't have a white source for this Meddling Mage, which means I'm probably gonna be forced to Gush. But I do think this Furnace is actually gonna be doing a pretty significant amount of work here. So I think it's worth protecting. If this Furnace goes unanswered, then I just don't care about Replenish, which is kind of the card I care about the most right now. Blanking my opponent's most powerful card seems like a pretty big deal here. I guess I'm gonna Gush here. Like, I'm just Gush flooded here. I need to start using my mana. Ugh, didn't find a white source. Was really looking forward to finding a white source there. So I'm gonna have to go to discard here. And I'm gonna ban, like, 1 Mage, 1 Dreadnought. That feels so bad. I guess this mana is gonna go to waste, so I'm just gonna play out the Dreadnought and see if my opponent does something about it. I mean, they're not going to because they have the Wave in play, but I mean, it's free to do that, so it's the card I'm gonna be discarding anyway, so so that happened. All right, next. I think, is Meddling Mage actually just better than this Dreadnought? I think Meddling Mage is just better than this Dreadnought. My opponent's at 20 though. That's so much life. Yeah, I'm gonna discard the second Mage. Maybe that's wrong. Man, I really wanted to find the white source there. That misplay with fetching is going to haunt me now. Like, I would have been able to like play a Meddling Mage this turn, naming whatever, like probably Swords to Plowshares. Then following turn I play another Meddling Mage, naming Parallax Wave, and I guess I could also name Orim's Chant. Okay, just place a land and passes. Untap. Ugh. Really need to find that white source. We have 8 white sources still in our deck. So at this point the wave is fading. So I guess it's just not playing around Armageddon at all. Which means that it's going to be that much more impactful if I do find it. So play my land, say go. I could be Dreadnought Stifling, but I do think that it's pretty likely my opponent has some stuff going on over there. Like Swords to Plowshares kind of deal. Maybe I should have played the Dreadnought, because I'm not going to be doing anything otherwise. So at least it forces my opponent to do something. Okay, there we go. Alright, so now we're cooking. If he Orim's Chant, I just let it go. Meddling Mage. Rename Swords to Plowshares. Exile Seal of Cleansing. I could Dreadnought here and see what my opponent does. I think it's probably fine. He probably Orim's Chant in response, which is fine. I just let it go. Oh, he doesn't. Okay. Well, this one is actually for real. The previous one was a fake Dreadnought. This one's for real. All right. So that resolves. That also resolves. Opponent has 8 lands in play. Very much not playing around Armageddon. Orim's Chant. I will gush in response. Okay. So wave doesn't do anything. This is actually super interesting. So I can daze or I can gush. My opponent could play a Parallax Wave here. I can opt. I can counterspell. The thing is that if I counterspell, then my opponent can Intuition plus Replenish if they have any land. And I don't have Furnace activation here. I think I'm going to counterspell this. This is, by the way, why I felt a little bit pressure to go for the Dreadnought line there. And the reason was because my opponent can actually assemble some sort of inevitability. Because it'll get to a point where they can just like chant, like they're going to assemble a hand that's going to be like double chant plus some stuff, you know? I think I have, actually, let's see. I think it's worth gushing here. I can find foil. I'm such a pro. Foil your wave, discarding 2 islands. So now they can have soul land into replenish, and that would suck. But if they have just any land into replenish, I can just ace it. Dude, this deck is just so good. I love this deck so much. I have an unreasonable love for this deck. And it loves me back. As you can see, this deck loves me back. To be fair, though, I do think that we had crazy close decisions almost every single time. And I kind of feel like I was doing well. This is actually super interesting. I think I annul this attunement because I don't have an answer to a replenish. And if this attunement resolves, my opponent gets to like draw a bunch of cards and then discard too many cards. At this point, the only card, if my opponent replenishes, the only card that matters is this Parallax Wave, which I can just exile with the Furnace. So if my opponent resolves this attunement, then I'm in a situation, yeah, exactly. So I can just exile the Parallax Wave, and now my opponent just gets back an attunement for his replenish. So, dude, I feel like I've been playing out of my mind. I don't want to say anything, but I feel like I have been playing out of my mind right now. At least I feel like most decisions that I've made were pretty good. Dude, what a crazy match. This match was so much fun. Jesus. And we got there. Champion of Champions, baby. Champion of Champions. Let's go. Let's go. Da, 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 da. Yes, yes. Oh man. Thank you so much, Mr. Picula. Chris once again delivering the beats and once again confirming and demonstrating why I am so high on this card in the format and why I am basically splashing white only for it. So, man, I feel like that was an insane match. I feel like there were so many close decisions at so many points in the game. It was just a very, very good finals, if I may say so myself. That little like fetching mistake is going to haunt me a little bit, but hopefully I could get away with it and I wasn't too punished. But it was a hell of a match. The furnace kind of did a lot of work, so really happy that I had access to like this random one of Fire Action Furnace in my list. It's really worked out in the end. In an Impulse proved its worth. It really did its job in terms of helping me pivot a little bit, right? Like we are able to just play a little bit of a different game plan with a bunch of one-offs by having access to a couple of impulses. Obviously, it's not going to be as good as finding a stand-ups, which is one of the things that really concerns me the most when I'm playing effectively a 17 land deck, because like this is a land, but it doesn't cast any of my cantrips and it doesn't really help me do anything really. So it's effectively a 17 land deck. But you know, just having access to impulses really makes my sideboarded games a lot better. Still unclear about whether I should be bringing in Brain Freeze or not. I think no is the answer, but I don't know. Like he just has so many answers to my Dreadnoughts that I think that pivoting into a Brain Freeze game plan just makes a lot of sense. I was very happy with how things worked out. It's possible that Furnace is not supposed to be in my deck list. I'm not discarding that this should just be another opt. But all I will say is it worked out. In this particular case, it worked out, and having access to a split in the one slot with Phyrexian Furnace and Swords to Plowshares really proving handy, as the two matches that I played in order to win this thing were against both Landstill and Replenish, both matchups where Swords to Plowshares is basically a dead card. So everything worked out in the best possible way. This was a lot of fun, and Fluffy played really well in that match, and really, you know, gave me a run. It really made me think and try to figure out. It really pushed me to play to my highest potential, which was very cool and very exciting. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And yeah, dude, Premodern is just so awesome. You can expect so much more Premodern content coming soon. So hopefully you're digging it. If you are, make sure you let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video, folks. Take care, and bye-bye!